Welcome to Saltwater Stories, everyone. We're going to be talking about something today that's incredibly important, and I know it's a topic that a lot of you out there are deeply concerned about. We're going to be talking about ghost nets.
Yeah, a silent killer, really. I mean, lurking beneath the waves and
Mm.
threatening, really, marine life and ecosystems
Yeah.
on a scale that's hard to even really grasp?
Most of our listeners are familiar with the term, I think, but for those who maybe aren't, can you give us a clear picture of, what exactly are ghost nets, and why do they pose such a significant threat?
Sure. So imagine, like, a fishing net.
Hmm.
Okay, maybe a massive one, like a trawl net
Yeah.
designed to sweep along the seafloor, or maybe like a gill net set up to catch fish by the gills. And now imagine that net just adrift, no longer under the control of a fisher,
Yeah.
but still fully capable of trapping and killing marine life. That's essentially what a ghost net is. And they can come from anywhere, right? Storms can tear them loose, they can get snagged on reefs accidentally. Sometimes they're even intentionally discarded to avoid, like, repair costs or fines for illegal fishing.
That's what's so insidious about them, right? They're
Yeah.
this kind of invisible menace, silently wreaking havoc below the surface.
Right. And the materials that they're made from just kind of compound the problem. So most modern fishing gear, it's made from these really strong synthetic materials like nylon, polypropylene. They're designed to be strong, durable. And this means that, like, a lost net can drift for decades, even centuries, slowly breaking down into smaller and smaller pieces of plastic, entangling and killing marine life the entire time.
You mentioned the intentional discarding. There was a study that found something like 46% of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is made up of discarded fishing gear.
Yeah.
That's a sobering thought. So we're not just talking about accidents here, are we?
No, unfortunately not. There's definitely some systemic issues at play here. Lack of proper disposal infrastructure,
Yeah.
inadequate regulations, and in some cases just outright, like, disregard for the environment. But regardless of how they end up there, the impact of these ghost nests is just devastating.
So let's talk about that impact. I mean, we've all seen those heartbreaking images of, turtles, dolphins entangled in these nets. What's the true scale of the carnage, though? Like, what kind of numbers are we actually looking at?
It's really tough to quantify, but, countless marine animals fall victim to ghost nets every year. It's a vast range of creatures. We're talking about sea turtles struggling for air, dolphins and seals hopelessly entangled, sharks left to die slow and agonizing deaths. Even seabirds, they mistake netting for food, or they become trapped. Smaller organisms like crabs and lobsters, they get left to starve in abandoned gooks fishing traps.
It's like this slow-motion massacre is happening beneath the waves. And it's all too easy to kind of just turn a blind eye to it, I think, because it's out of sight. But it's not just about the immediate deaths, is it? These ghost nets disrupt entire ecosystems.
Absolutely. So think about those kind of cascading effects. When you remove a predator, like, say, a shark, their prey populations, they explode. And that throws the delicate balance of that ecosystem just completely out of whack. And then on the flip side, if you lose herbivores like sea turtles, that can lead to uncontrolled algal growth,
Mhm.
which can suffocate coral reefs, create these dead zones.
And there's the plastic pollution aspect of it too,
Oh,
right?
right.
Which adds kind of another layer of complexity to this whole issue.
Exactly. So as these nets break down, they contribute to the ever-growing problem of microplastics in our oceans. And those microplastics, they get ingested by marine animals, impacting their health. And potentially, even reaching us through the food chain. We're essentially creating this, toxic soup that's poisoning our planet.
It's almost too much to comprehend. But as overwhelming as it feels, we can't afford to just, be paralyzed by despair. There are people, organizations out there working tirelessly to combat this. And, I'm eager to hear more about those efforts. But first, I want to touch on the maybe less discussed human cost of these ghost nets. How are they impacting people, especially those whose livelihoods depend on the ocean?
Well, they pose a very direct threat to fishing communities,
Hmm.
especially small-scale fishers who are operating on, these razor-thin margins. Then nets can snag on fishing gear, causing damage, loss of equipment, not to mention, reducing their catch, their income. In some cases, it can even lead to, like, dangerous situations where the nets entangle propellers, disable vessels.
So it's not just an environmental problem, it's a human problem too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And as you said earlier, these ghost nets are a significant contributor to this growing problem of microplastics, which ultimately affects us all.
You're absolutely right. And that economic impact, it extends beyond the fishing industry, too. Tourism suffers, when once pristine beaches are littered with debris, or, those beautiful coral reefs, they're decimated by ghost net damage. And then the resulting ecosystem imbalances. It's like a domino effect with far-reaching consequences.
This brings us to, I think, like the crucial question. What is being done to combat this like silent killer?
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the solutions, the organizations that are leading the fight here.
Well, one of the most significant developments has been the emergence of the Global Ghost Gear Initiative. The GGGI, it's basically an international alliance bringing together governments, NGOs, businesses, individuals, anyone who has a stake in really tackling this problem.
Can you elaborate a little bit on like what makes the GGGI approach unique? Is it just about cleaning up the mess, or are they kind of tackling the problem at its root?
Well, they have this like three-pronged approach. So first, retrieving the existing ghost gear, then, preventing future losses, and then finding ways to actually recycle or repurpose those recovered nets. One of their kind of standout initiatives is the work that they've done with fishing communities in the Philippines, for example, providing training on gear maintenance, loss prevention techniques, even setting up systems to collect and recycle damaged nets.
That's a really holistic approach. I'm curious, like, what sort of impact are those initiatives actually having? Are we seeing positive results?
Oh, absolutely. They've seen a significant reduction in ghost gear in areas where these programs have been implemented. And it's not just about the cleanup. It's about empowering local communities to become stewards of their own marine environments. They've even helped to create markets for products that are made from recycled ghost nets, providing an economic incentive for those responsible fishing practices.
That's fantastic. It sounds like they're making some real progress. Are there any other, like, innovative solutions or technologies being used in this fight?
Oh, there are some really exciting developments, like they're using drones equipped with sonar, AI, to locate ghost nets more efficiently, even in deeper waters. And they're working with fishing gear manufacturers to develop nets that are traceable, using GPS trackers, even biodegradable materials, which could be a real game changer in the long run.
That's incredible. It sounds like technology is really playing like a vital role in this whole battle.
It really is. They're also using satellite imagery to track fishing activity and identify those high-risk areas for gear loss, so allowing for more targeted prevention efforts.
So we have those like large-scale initiatives, the technological advancements. What about individual actions, though? Can ordinary people, like our listeners, actually make a difference in this fight against ghost nets?
Absolutely. I mean, individual actions are crucial. The most significant impact any of us can have is by reducing our own personal plastic consumption. Every piece of plastic that we choose not to use is one less piece that could potentially end up as marine debris, contributing to this problem. And it's not just about those individual choices either. I mean, we can all support organizations like the GGGI, either through donations or volunteering our time.
Yeah, that's a good point. Sometimes it feels like these kind of global problems are just too big for any one person to make a difference. But collective action can really move the needle. What are some other ways that, our listeners can contribute?
Spread awareness. I mean, talk to your friends and family about ghost nets, share information online, support businesses that are taking steps to reduce their plastic footprint, things like that.
A lot of our listeners are really passionate about the ocean. What would you say to like someone who wants to get more actively involved beyond just reducing their plastic use?
There are some fantastic organizations out there that specialize in underwater and beach cleanups. You can volunteer with them, donate to support their efforts. You can even get trained as a ghost gear removal specialist.
That's amazing.
Right.
I love that there are options for people to get hands on and really make a direct impact. Now, I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about the science behind all this. What are researchers doing to kind of better understand ghost nets and develop even more effective solutions?
Well, there's a lot of really fascinating research happening right now. Scientists are using these sophisticated computer models to track how these nets drift and accumulate in different parts of the ocean. They're mapping currents, tides, wind patterns, all to try to predict where these nets are most likely to end up. Allows for those more targeted retrieval efforts.
So it's like they're essentially creating a roadmap for ghost net hunters.
Exactly. And it's not just about retrieval, though. I mean, they're also studying the long-term impact of these nets on marine ecosystems by analyzing, the types of animals that are entangled, the severity of their injuries, the overall health of, those affected habitats, they're really building like a compelling case for stronger action to prevent future damage.
So it's not just about cleaning up the mess, it's about understanding the science behind it
Yeah.
to develop those preventative measures. Are there any like breakthroughs on that front?
Well, there are some pretty exciting developments. One area that holds a lot of promise is biodegradable fishing gear. So researchers are experimenting with, natural fibers and advanced polymers that are designed to break down harmlessly in the marine environment if they're lost or abandoned.
That's a game changer. But how far along is that technology? Are we talking about something that's like years away, or is it closer to becoming a reality?
There are definitely challenges to overcome. One of the biggest is just ensuring that these biodegradable materials are strong and durable enough to withstand, the demands of commercial fishing. They need to be able to hold up under intense pressure, resist wear and tear, but also decompose at the right rate. Not too quickly, or they'll just fall apart before they've served their purpose. Not too slowly, or they'll still pose a risk to marine life.
It's a delicate balancing act, but it sounds incredibly promising. What are some of the other like scientific approaches to tackling this issue?
Another area where science is making some significant strides is in tracking technology. We talked about satellite tracking earlier being used to monitor fishing vessels and their gear, but researchers are taking it a step further. They're developing systems that use like acoustic tags and underwater sensors to pinpoint the exact location of submerged nets, even in those like deep, murky waters.
So it's like giving ghost nets a digital fingerprint that we can track even when they're out of sight. That could be like a real game changer for retrieval efforts.
Absolutely. And the more data we have about the movement and behavior of these nets, the better equipped we'll be to develop those effective preventative strategies. But science alone can't solve this problem. I mean, we need like a multi-pronged approach that combines scientific advancements with policy changes, industry collaboration, and those individual actions.
So that brings us to, I think, a critical point. How do we translate all of this, like scientific knowledge, into real-world action? What are the next steps in kind of turning the tide on this issue?
Well, we need to start by bridging the gap between research and policy. Governments need to be informed about the latest scientific findings and use that knowledge to implement stricter regulations on fishing gear disposal, promote the use of those biodegradable materials, and, incentivize the adoption of tracking technologies.
So it's about making sure that the science isn't just like sitting on a show somewhere gathering dust. It needs to be translated into like tangible policies that can actually make a real difference.
Exactly. We also need to engage with the fishing industry. Fishermen are on the front lines of this issue, and their cooperation is crucial. This means, providing them with the necessary training and resources to prevent gear loss in the first place, incentivizing them to participate in retrieval efforts, supporting that transition to more sustainable fishing practices.
And we need to continue to like raise public awareness, right, about the devastating impact of ghost nets. People need to understand that their choices matter, that they have the power to influence change through their consumer habits, their voting decisions, and their everyday actions.
You're absolutely right. Education is a key component of this fight. We need to reach people on an emotional level, make them understand that immense suffering that these ghost nets cause and inspire them to take action. We can do this by sharing powerful stories, captivating imagery, compelling data.
Speaking of compelling stories, one of the things that's been so inspiring to me in our research is the incredible work that's being done around the world to not only remove ghost nets, but also to give them a second life through repurposing. Can you share some examples of that?
Oh, there are so many creative and innovative projects underway. We're seeing ghost nets transformed into everything from yarn for knitting and crocheting to durable materials for building shelters. There are companies that are recycling ghost nets into products like skateboards, sunglasses, even carpet tiles. These initiatives, they not only help to clean up the ocean, but they also create economic opportunities and raise awareness about the issue in a really engaging way.
It's like a beautiful example of turning trash into treasure. And it really highlights the power of human ingenuity to find solutions, even in the face of these seemingly insurmountable challenges. But as inspiring as those stories are, I think it's important to acknowledge that, we're still in the early stages of this fight. The problem of ghost gear is vast, it's complex, it's not going to be solved overnight. What are some of the key challenges that we still need to overcome?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is just the sheer scale of the problem. The ocean is vast, and ghost gear is incredibly difficult to locate and retrieve. It's, like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Even with the latest technologies, it's a daunting task.
And it's not just about finding the nets either, right? It's about getting them out of the water safely, efficiently, without causing further damage to the environment.
Exactly. And then there's the issue of funding. I mean, many of the organizations working on this problem are, they're under-resourced. They rely heavily on donations and grants to keep their operations running. We need to find ways to secure, more sustainable funding streams to support these crucial efforts.
And we need to make sure that those funds are being used effectively. Prioritize projects that are, evidence-based, that have a proven track record of success.
You're absolutely right. Accountability and transparency are essential. We need to be able to demonstrate that the resources being invested in this fight are making a tangible difference.
And it's not just about money either. I mean, we need more people power. We need more volunteers, more researchers, more policymakers, more businesses committed to tackling this issue.
Exactly. We need to build like a global movement, a groundswell of support that will drive change from the bottom up and the top down.
In the last couple parts, we took a deep look at the problem of ghost nets, how they form, that devastating impact they have on marine life, the science that's helping us understand their behavior, and some of those promising solutions that are emerging.
And in this final segment, we're going to kind of broaden our focus a bit and look at the global efforts to combat this issue and, explore those solutions in more detail.
So we talked about the Global Ghost Gear Initiative a bit earlier, the GGGI. Let's kind of dive a little deeper into their role in coordinating those global efforts. What sets them apart? What sets the GGGI apart from other organizations working in this space?
Well, you can think of the GGGI as kind of a central hub, bringing together governments, NGOs, businesses, fishing organizations, researchers, anyone, really, who has a stake in tackling this problem. It's a platform for sharing knowledge, best practices, resources, and maybe most importantly, they're working to create like a truly coordinated global strategy to address this problem, because they recognize that ghost nets, they don't respect national boundaries.
That cross-border collaboration is key, isn't it? I mean, a net lost off the coast of one country could easily drift thousands of miles, end up wreaking havoc in like a totally different part of the world.
Exactly. And the GGGI understands that. They're working on multiple fronts, pushing for the adoption of best practices within the fishing industry. So, things like gear marking, tracking systems, responsible disposal methods.
Those sound like really practical, common sense solutions. But are they actually gaining traction? Like, is the fishing industry embracing these changes?
They're making real headway, actually. By working directly with those fishing organizations and governments, the GGGI is really helping to implement those best practices. And we're seeing positive results. So, for example, those gear marking programs, which, allow lost nets to be traced back to their owners. They've been successfully implemented in several countries. And this not only helps to recover that lost gear, but it also promotes, accountability within the industry.
Yeah, it creates that direct link, right, between the fisher and the consequence of a lost net. That's a powerful incentive for responsible behavior. What about alternative materials? We talked about biodegradable fishing gear earlier. How close are we to actually seeing that become widely adopted?
Well, the GGGI is playing a crucial role in kind of bridging that gap between, the research and the implementation. They're working to connect the researchers who are developing those biodegradable materials with, the manufacturers, fishing organizations, helping to accelerate the adoption of this, game-changing technology. It's not a quick fix, but it's a vital step in the right direction.
It's encouraging to see that, progress is being made on preventing that future ghost gear. But what about the nets that are already out there, silently decimating marine life? What efforts are underway to actually clean up this, legacy of debris?
Well, there are many organizations out there working tirelessly on ghost net retrieval. Some of them are employing, traditional methods, divers, boats. Others are utilizing some of that cutting-edge technology we talked about, sonar, underwater drones, to locate and retrieve nets in those, really challenging environments. But the ocean is vast, and locating those nets, it really can be like finding a needle in a haystack.
It sounds incredibly challenging.
It is, but these organizations are incredibly dedicated, resourceful. They're removing tons of ghost gear every year, preventing further harm to marine life and ecosystems.
That's heartening to hear. It's a testament to kind of human resilience and ingenuity. In our research, we were really struck by how many of these efforts aren't just top-down initiatives led by large organizations, but also these grassroots movements sparked by local communities taking action in their own waters.
Absolutely. We see inspiring examples of this all over the world. Fishermen banding together to collect and recycle old nets, diverse organizing cleanup expeditions, coastal communities coming together to remove ghost gear from their, local beaches and reefs. These community-led initiatives are not only making a tangible difference in cleaning up the ocean, but they're also fostering like a sense of ownership and responsibility for
Mhm.
protecting marine environments.
Yeah. It's a powerful reminder that we don't have to wait for someone else to solve this problem.
Yeah.
You know, we can all be a part of the solution, whether it's through individual actions, supporting those organizations, or, getting involved in those local initiatives.
You hit the nail on the head. It's about collective action,
Sure.
individual responsibility, and fostering that global culture of stewardship for our oceans. And, one of the most inspiring aspects of this fight is the creativity and innovation that's being applied to this problem. We're seeing a shift from simply removing ghost nets to actually repurposing them, giving them a second life, preventing them from ending up in landfills.
I was blown away by some of the initiatives that we came across in our research. Ghost nets transformed into yarn for crafting, used to create stunning art installations,
Yeah.
repurposed into building materials, even recycled into new products like skateboards and sunglasses. It's remarkable to see how something that was once a symbol of destruction could be transformed into something beautiful, functional.
It really is a testament to human ingenuity. And it's, a beacon of hope in the face of this environmental crisis. It shows that we can find ways to turn trash into treasure and create a more sustainable future.
This has been a really impactful conversation, and we've covered a lot of ground. From the stark realities of this problem to the inspiring solutions and initiatives that are giving us hope. But as we wrap up this episode, what key message would you want to leave our listeners with?
I think, this problem, while daunting, is not insurmountable. We have the knowledge, we have the tools, and we have the collective will to combat ghost gear and protect our oceans. Every action, no matter how small, it contributes to the solution. Whether it's reducing our plastic consumption, supporting those organizations that are doing that crucial work, or simply just spreading awareness, we can all be a part of the change.
Thank you for sharing your expertise and insights with us today. This has been a sobering yet ultimately empowering conversation. And to our listeners, we urge you to take action, to be a part of the solution. We have a responsibility to protect our oceans for ourselves and for future generations. And a special shout out to this week's co-producer, Ben Kay. This was not an easy topic. We appreciate all the research and hard work you put into this week's episode.